First, I would just say I would echo these parents. I'm totally against the second phase of this. Not Main reason is just once again we tend to spend money without actually looking into things. But the second thing I'm going to talk to you about is actually asking you to vote no to a new position being created for a MTSS coordinator job description. And so I'm going to ask you as a board to vote no for that. We've asked our school principals to do more with less. We took away allocations from them this year, and we are going to ask teachers to have more kids in their room. They're going to have to teach more kids. They're going to have to grade more assignments and do a lot more work, with more students in their classroom. They're going to have to catch up on that. What I'm asking you to do is to ask the district to do the same thing. Okay, I understand the answer is going to be, well, we're doing away with some positions. We've gotten rid of some things. We're rid of some people. We're not going to fill positions. And that's great. Let's save that money and let's try to build our fund back up to where it needs to be. So maybe in the future we can purchase a MTSS coordinator. But first, let's just actually see if there's a need for it. I see in there that we're saying it's part of this new law that was given to us, and I understand that, and maybe there will be a need for it. But instead of putting the cart before the horse, why don't we actually see if there is a need for it before we spend, I think in there it said $90,000. Why don't we see if there is an actual need for this position? And then at that point, we can come back to the board and say, hey, there's an actual need. Here's some statistics, and we're going to hire that position. I mean, goodness gracious, our district did this entire year without Title III grant money. We didn't have that all year. I think we can actually do away with the position and see if somebody else can actually do that work for us this year. Thanks.
Do you want to speak to that law also?
Yeah, this law they keep referring to is just really the law that they passed that would allow principals to have a little more freedom on getting rid of kids. So they are acting like, here's the funny part about this whole thing. When we were going through the Connor situation with the hit list, if you heard Mr. Turner, it was his hands were tied, his hands were tied, his hands were tied because of a law. Now we refer to this law as it's a bad thing. I don't know if you noticed, like even our board, Mr. Turner, Dr. Detweiler, because of this law. Well, the only thing the law did was give our principals freedom to get these kids out of our schools if they are in need of, in need's not the right word, but, if we have a kid that had a hit list, then we can get them out of our school for a longer period of time. And what they're saying is, now I'm afraid we're going to be kicking elementary kids out. We don't have a school for them. And so now it's all of a sudden became a bad thing. And it drives me crazy because at first it was, we need a law like this. And now it's a bad thing because the law wasn't written to exactly how they want it. It just drives me nuts. So, yeah, that's the law that they keep referring to when they talk about this position that they need. The other thing about the position too, they will make decisions without any statistics. So even when you go through later on, when we go through this piece and Jesse starts asking questions, they can't give answers. The only answers that they can give are, I know in the thing Carolyn says, well, this was talked a lot about in the code of conduct meetings, and it was, we did talk about not necessarily this position, but the need for having kids that are in trouble quite a bit, the need to have somebody that can. But what we were talking about was in the schools. I spoke with a principal and an assistant principal after this board meeting, and they said, we don't need people telling us how to do it. We actually need the person in the school that can do it. And so, once again, this is just the district spending money, having another position. We're already top heavy at our district level. And all 5 of our board members voted yes for it. I still don't understand why. I really don't. I don't understand why our board says they don't like to spend money, but then they just vote yes to allow them to spend it.
Aren't we in a financial crisis?
Yeah, I mean, if you talk to people at the district office, they would say that.
Ball is here to give you a quick description of the changes to that coordinator jobs position.
Good evening. I'm going to kind of tag team this with Dr. Detweiler. In short, this position is being essentially changed from a 10 and a quarter to 12-month position, with the director of EL services becoming vacant and not filling that position. Elevating this position to a 12-month position allows this individual to assume some of those responsibilities that were previously assumed by the director position, and adding a couple of kind of elevated responsibilities to that position as well, as you can see with the updates to the job description that were proposed. So
I don't know if you heard when I spoke at the beginning, I talked about we did away with Title III money. That's because someone at the district office, the lady who is in charge of it, who's no longer with us, she forgot to fill out all the paperwork to get our Title III money. Title III is for like English learners. So, ESL kids, those type of students. But Title III money was not given to us. So this lady was told that she would no longer, that she was as high as she would ever go, that she would could no longer move up in our district. So she left to become a principal at a school in Lexington. So I find it interesting that, we're doing away with that position now. We're going to combine it, which tells me we didn't need the position in the first place. It's exactly what I'm talking about. Let's combine this other position. If we can do this, she probably made $90,000, $100,000. If we can do it with her position, we can do it with other positions.
Yes.
So that's eliminated, but we're adding this position
At a lower level,
at a lower level.
because this is a coordinator level, not a director.
Okay.
It results in like small savings of like $6,500.
And these multi-tiered system supports, there's no one currently serving in the district office, whether it's the DPP's office or the Office of Student Personnel or anything like that, that could have these job description underneath their job currently, rather than having
Excellent
to.
question. Good question. So there are two parts. You have what we currently call RTI, which is the academic, and PBIS, which is the behavior. PBIS has been sitting in student services for several years, which includes Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3. MTSS as a whole and the RTI has been the responsibility of our Title I coordinator. When we had our Title I audit, it was very clear that that's too much for one position. And with the added stressors of the increased behaviors and Senate Bill 9 and what Dr. Brown just talked about, we really feel that we need one person coordinating it to make sure we're looking at the whole child. It's one thing to look at PBIS as a compartment and the academics RTI as a compartment, but they really have to be intertwined rather than doing double the work. So this coordinator would do just that, coordinate all of that for the whole child for each of the schools and put those systems into place to make sure we're integrating those systems of interventions. But to answer your question directly, currently the Title I coordinator really has bared the brunt of this responsibility, and it's too much for one person. I think she's been doing that for maybe 2 years now.
So when we say, and I'm trying to wrap my head around the actual job. So does this person work with people at the school level on specific student cases?
Yes, so what will happen is this position will set up a system for each of the schools to follow that from the district level will monitor, the position will monitor to make sure they're following the procedures, which includes the student team of teachers and administrators and counselors looking at students and their behaviors and their academics intertwined, and then making sure tier 1 interventions are in place before moving to tier 2, before moving to tier 3, and before making other referrals as necessary, and trying to avoid what Dr. Brown talked about, students just being removed without interventions being put into place. It's a real challenge, especially, I mean, it's a challenge everywhere, but elementary principals have been talking about this for years. It's really hard at those younger levels, those extreme behaviors. How do we handle those? There's not alternative settings. We don't really have good planned tier 2 and tier 3 interventions. We have to put together behavioral plans to make sure and evaluations to make sure they get what they need. This person will coordinate all of that for the whole child, which is something we don't have right now.
At a district level, though. So in other words, they'll come up with a program or some systems
They'll come up
that
with the system
schools will follow.
and then implement it at the school level, just like we do, very much like what we do for special ed. We have a system, but at the school level, there's a team, the ARC team, that makes sure that all of those systems are being put into place and the programming is happening.
So who will be the team at the school level implementing this?
The team is made up of, currently, there are teachers, there are interventionists, there are counselors, probably a school psychologist, and an administrator.
See, they already have these teams formed.
Is there no other way to set this up or to reallocate existing employees to cover these responsibilities? Because at some point, I'm not opposed to the position or what they do, not at all. It's a very vital situation, but at some point it becomes a budgetary issue where we need to slim down the district, unfortunately. So has there been any consideration of rearranging staff members to cover this position, so we don't have, we have the, not right now, the net positive of the position that we eliminated or we're going to eliminate. But if we just fill that back up, we're back at even, pretty much.
Mr. Parks, I think with this position, we're wanting to have this at the district level so we can support the work going on within the school. Asking our school employees to be doing more with that would stretch them far too thin with their work and trying to provide interventions, trying to hold the meetings to plan what to do in different situations, especially with our youngest learners. It becomes very time intensive and very challenging. So this person is going to lead the work, to monitor the work across the whole district to ensure that it's going on at a high quality level across all of our schools. So I think what this is to help work with our schools and help provide some support and some assistance for them to get done what they need to do.
We have less infractions with our youngest learners than we do with anyone. So they keep talking about, our youngest learners, meaning elementary age kids. We have less infractions with them throughout our district. So I don't understand why that's so important, besides that the lady who's in charge of tier 1, so the lady who's actually overseeing that, Dr. Watson, that would fall all on her. And we're trying to take something off of her plate, so she doesn't have to do it any longer, which once again, she can do it. We're just not going to make her have more on her plate. We're just going to put that back on the schools. That's the thing about this position. This position doesn't take less off of the schools. What it actually does is it takes freedom away from the schools. So now all the interventions are going to look the same. There's going to be someone from the district office that's going to tell the schools exactly what they need to do. And at that point, the schools are still going to have to implement it. So the schools are still going to have to do these things. It's just, they're going to be told what to do from a district office employee now, which I'm sure our school principals will love that.
Is this position already posted?
No, it's not been created yet, and it won't be until the board would create that. So the approval of that would be required.
I'll just say again, I'm in favor of the position. I am. It's necessary because of what we've seen over the last couple of years with behavior issues, and whether that's, that brings us into a whole other thing of why that is and what happens to students and all those types of things. I just really would like to take, because I don't think, does the board have to eliminate the previous position? That can just fall away. Okay. But would it be up to the superintendent at some point if he chose to fill it? Since it's an open position?
To get rid of the position, no, they would have to come back to ask us to recreate the position.
I guess that's my question. Are we removing that other position, or are we just leaving it vacant?
No, we were moving it, right? We got rid of it. I'm looking at HR back there, so that position doesn't exist anymore.
Okay.
Isn't it weird that she's not speaking into her mic?
Well, it's weird, the whole meeting that was done by district employees, they sat in their seat.
Gotcha.
Out of curiosity, I think it was in April, Mr. Ford, our DPP, had mentioned having in the mid to high 400s of disciplinary hearings shortly after the first of the year. That's 400 and let's just say 50 that office has handled. Do we know what we ended up with the end of the year for school? How many disciplinary hearings the DPP's office staff handled for the year? And I'm not counting the expulsions that we did. We had more expulsions this year than we've had that I can remember in my tenure on the board.
It's because of vaping.
Nuh-uh, that's why, for real.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're still going to be in the 400s, so. I think that's your answer why the DPP's office can't handle this.
Sure. What's the normal?
Unless you look at repurposing one of the assistant positions into this position. Trade that off. I don't know.
Our job in LSS and learning support and student services is to build systems so that in the schools, they can work with the kids. If we had this system in place 5-10 years ago, we wouldn't have as many hearings because the kids would get the interventions on behaviors early on, and it's exponential from there. So it's so important that we have somebody building the system, monitoring the system, making sure the system's working. That's our job at district office, so that the school,
Did they need this 5 or 10 years ago?
that kind of behavior problem explode on us again.
That's what it sounds like.
Relatively new movement across the country, MTSS, bringing the academic and the behavior together. But if we build a strong system, we won't have to have that same issue in the future. I believe that.
I'm glad we can hear what's going on.
What is she saying?
No clue. Here's the thing is, the other thing we need to watch out for here in the next 15 days is who they're going to put in this position. So one of the things they talk about is having an expert of intervention. And
Okay.
Dr. Pori at one point talks about having somebody who
And maybe we can come back around to this, just
like pretty much that has, I think he called him an expert in this. And I guarantee you, we hire somebody from one of our schools as an assistant principal or something that has no extensive training in this intervention. So it'll be very interesting to see who we hire for this position and see if they really meet the requirements like they said that they would have in this meeting.
I had a district employee tell me that the central office has a habit of grabbing the best and brightest teachers and admins from our actual schools and moving them into central office away from students, when really we need those best and brightest physically in the schools working with the students. I don't know if that's something that you've seen or that you know about. I had an admin tell me that it was really disappointing because they keep taking all these really great experience and people from the building with the students and then putting them in positions where they have, they don't work with students anymore at all.
Right.
A through triple P as presented with the treasurer's report presented by Mrs. Linda Shield. Mrs.
Hi.
Shield?
Yes, thank you. We began the month with an adjusted cash balance of $60,909,986. Our total revenues for the month were $15,225,305. Our expenditures were $12,518,749. We had a net increase in our cash balance of $2,706,556. That leaves us with an ending cash balance of $63,616,542. That cash balance is actually about 13.8 million higher than the cash balance that I reported at this time last year. But there are several reasons for that. A couple of those are that some positive news that I have from the revenue side of our budget. The Department of Revenue, the State Department of Revenue sent us 2.8 million of omitted taxes. Now, at this time, I have not been able to obtain any additional information regarding how those taxes were collected or who they were collected from.
Do you know what she's talking about? 2.8 million in omitted taxes. Are those taxes that were taken away that people paid?
No, that's all coming from Turfway Park. Those are so what happens is when Turfway went to rebuild, they actually got a tax break on rebuilding that. But in that tax break, they still have to, the schools in the county, I don't know exactly how this works, but they agree on a certain amount. And so that amount was that 2.8.
Okay, because she was saying she didn't know who the
Yeah.
money belongs to, which was kind of
Yeah.
weird.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure why she said that, but that's where that money's coming from. And that money's already spent.
Okay, if you want to.
They bought buses with it.
Wanted to talk about our occupational license receipts. This is something I call a timing difference. Right now, it is showing on a cash basis that our occupational license receipts are 2.5 million higher than last year, but there was a period of time where the county got behind in submitting the revenues. If you look at it on an accrual basis, we are really right in line. We're only probably within $100,000 of the same level we collected for the specific months. Our collections from public service corporations are higher than last year, and we received 1.2 million this month. Let's see what else. We have our utility taxes are exceeding last year's collections by $1 million at this time. We have a higher level of interest earnings, with the interest rates going up about 1.4 million. We are exceeding our budget for motor vehicle taxes as well. So have some, and our expenses are actually maintaining a very good level when you compare to our expenses last year. We also paid $802,000 in debt service for the month.
What is 802,000 in debt service just last month?
I can find that out.
802,000. She said last month, and I'm like, is that just for 1 month?
Yeah, I don't know the specifics on.
And can you also find out how much taxes are paid locally to our schools with all the occupational tags, property, all that stuff that the community is actually fitting the bill for? Are you able to find out how much they
Yep.
get from local resources,
Yep, I can do that too.
since they keep raising it? And I was tipped off that we need to keep an eye out for a meeting this summer for another tax increase from the board.
That they want to vote for another tax increase.
Yep. Yep. Keep your eye out on the agenda is what I was told.
Wow. People are gonna lose their minds.
If they even pay attention. I mean, the last
Right.
time they did it was in the summer and nobody knew it was on the agenda. And I don't know if people don't notice.
I mean, I would just encourage people to either email or, well, email is probably the best way, all the board members. Because they're going to come back with some options to try to appease everybody. So,
Well, I've checked out Carolyn's page. She's gotten no positive feedback. She did a survey, but apparently she quit taking the survey after 16 people replied, and it was all negative feedback. The survey they sent out was trying to manufacture consent. Did you see it, Jacob?
oh yeah, I filled it out.
Great.
I love how once again they're trying to rush this through. So instead of taking their time and, people are on vacation, they sent out a survey. They think that it's just gonna, people are gonna forget about it. So I guess we'll see what the board does, but I'm sure it'll be like anything else. They'll probably just vote for it.
They sent out the survey Thursday, so they're not even giving a full week for parental response.
Once again, when they ask questions about that, no statistics.
Oh, they
No-
haven't answered
none.
any of the questions from the school board meeting.
No statistics at all. And then they say, well, it'll be too hard to track. And here's the other thing. The only thing this allows us to do is tell us where kids got on and off the bus. So the one point that they made about, well, principal says it's crazy, it's chaotic, it's blah, blah, blah. It's still going to be crazy and chaotic. This doesn't fix that problem. It's just going to allow, as soon as the kid gets on the bus, for a text message or whatever to go to the parent that says the kid got on the bus. And we talk about the middle school situation of where the kid's playing out back. Well, okay, that's still going to happen. It's not, unless, they say they're not, but unless they're tracking the kid and they can go on there and tell you exactly where the kid is, then it's not going to happen. So I don't know why this new program is going to be any better. It drives me nuts. It's just a thing to spend money, and I don't even understand why we think it's smart in spending this money. I mean, I don't know. It just doesn't make sense to me.
So could we
So-
get information from, what's her name? Is it Linda? Finance?
About how much it costs.
Yeah, how much it costs, how much we spent so far, and can we get a copy of the Zonar contract that no one can seem to find on any of the old agendas?
It's funny because Karen Bird says that Jesse and her have been part of these conversations for over a year. Yet they have a ton of questions. And then Karen Bird goes in to say, with this system, we can prevent kids from getting on the wrong bus and off the wrong stop. And then Kim Best was like, no, we didn't purchase that system. She's like, oh, it doesn't do that.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly.
It
But that's
doesn't
what I'm
even do, it doesn't even solve their problems. And I'm like, so you've had these conversations for a year and you didn't know that, Miss Bird?
That's what I'm saying is it doesn't solve any problem. But here's what it does. It introduces this to where it really can track your kid. So eventually they would be able to do that. Eventually they
Right.
would be able to tell how close your kid is to a bus, to the school, whatever it might be.
Where they are
So,
on
yeah.
the weekends? Mhm.
Yeah, eventually it can do that.
Right. That's the goal. That's the end goal. Right now, they're sugarcoating it, saying, "Oh, it's a low frequency. It can't happen. It can't track unless you're so many feet away from the device. But later on, what are the chances that they're going to distribute new cards, and those are high frequency, which those can be actually tracked long distances.
When they change them out, is it going to go through the school board? Like, are parents even going to know if it gets changed out? Because it's just a slippery slope. And then the Zonar guy was asked how many school districts use in Kentucky and Cincinnati use it. And basically he comes back with, well, they all have the card readers, but no one's using it
Right.
except for the handicap. They put it on the handicap kids to track attendance for their money.
Yeah. And I love that they said that there's one school district in Texas, but they're not using it to the full ability either.
Well, yeah, he
Now-
says it's 80,000 students, but I looked it up. It's 125,000 students.
Yeah.
That's almost the entire population of Boone County. They asked a bunch of questions that nobody could answer. So I'm wondering if the school board members got any of these answers prior to the special meeting.
No, I'm sure they didn't.